I'm Susannah.
And I'm Sarah. And this is our podcast, Silent Matters. Better on.
We're recording.
We're
We're go time.
All right, awesome. Welcome, everybody, back to the next podcast. We've got someone amazing here, someone new to the Geelong region. So welcome. We've got Jeremy Crawford, who's the new CEO of Geelong Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, Jeremy.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
I've been here for 7 years, so
That's still
newish.
new.
Okay, that's awkward.
Nah, still new in Geelong.
No,
really.
not awkward. New to the role though.
Right. But did you go to school in Geelong?
No.
Yeah, nah, you're still an outsider. Sorry, buddy.
You're like me.
Yeah.
I'm an outsider
Doesn't
as well.
you
You'll
can
never
tw-
be in.
Nah,
We'll never be in, Jeremy. Ever.
Never in. So yeah, we're still going to call you an outsider. Suze, you're an outsider too, really.
Yeah, but
Yep.
I'm only 2 years in. Jesus, I'm a real
Oh,
outsider.
see, I'm winning today.
Yeah, true.
That's
There
you
go.
are.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
I've been here forever, so yeah, I don't know what that says. We're a bit awkward, us Geelong people, apparently. But anyway, we actually went off topic before we started. We're actually just telling Jeremy about one of our topics we did earlier today, and it was actually on ghosting around recruitment and how it's so frustrating when candidates ghost you, but they're more than happy to say recruiters ghost them. So they give us a big go that we never return their phone calls.
That's true.
But then I feel like from a recruitment point of view, we get ghost. And then we've gone down the path. Our last podcast was down the path, went down to dating side of things because it's around the ghosting. So it's actually quite an interesting...
It sure was. But we're here to talk about Jeremy.
Oh, thank you.
Jeremy,
Yes.
how is the new role?
the new role's great. Yeah, it's fantastic. Probably what's better though is the people that you get to speak with. But you know what? You get to quickly meet so many people, and running into the same people at all the different events is actually quite nice. And that's one of the great things I didn't realise might actually happen, is that you build some really awesome connections quickly, and then you get to go and see them all this week again, next week, different events. We obviously run into Connie before, in the same space, which is just amazing. So, the role's going well. There's plenty of interesting things happening in Geelong.
Like
So-
what? Give us a bit of what's interesting.
You were going to ask that?
Yeah.
It's just a really great scene at the moment for businesses wanting to do new things. And we've got a few things changing around the city, and, they're obviously having to deal with comm games and a few increased costs. And so there's some opportunities for particularly the Geelong Chamber to pick up some of those things.
Yeah.
But you've also got some really other new, fresh leaders and executives as well
Like
that have
yourself?
got their own ideas. Probably fresher than me, I think, Sarah. Fresher as in cool. I think I might have been one of the most recently started. But so there's a really lovely tone speaking with other business leaders and organisations about some of the opportunities that are coming, I hate to say post-COVID. We're still close enough to say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But some really good ideas that I think we'll be able to advance for the region.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely. So we kind of want to delve, obviously you've just gone through it, recruitment campaign. So there was a couple of topics we kind of wanted to really delve in with yourself around the recruitment experience and what's happening out there now, and how is recruitment, a lot of people are saying to me that a lot of clients are saying they used to just put a role and seek, and that's all they used to do, or put in the paper, but now they're not really getting candidates. There's a lot of headhunting, LinkedIn, people looking elsewhere. So just because you've actually come to a new role in the Geelong community, what was your experience with recruitment from a candidate point of view? Like, how did you find the market? And
Yeah, and it's probably the first time I've been a genuine candidate for probably, I was going to say maybe 10 years.
Okay.
Which is probably actually reflective of what is actually happening when you are a candidate.
Yes.
So I've had a few roles in the past where it's come through referrals or some networks that I've spoken to and established, and people can sort of help you out that way. But I think it's coming into the chamber is a really good example of having had some established relationships of people who knew that I really wanted to try and work in Geelong at some point in future. I didn't have a time frame on that.
Yep.
And that if it was the right role at the right time and the right opportunity for me and the family, etc., that I would entertain it.
Yep.
And so having other people out there doing some of those things for you can be really valuable.
Yes.
So that's why partnering with, some recruitment firms and maybe some key players, and even just attending events and speaking to organisations can be really useful. And so it's funny, over the past, so I was with Medibank prior to this role for nearly 5 years. and I'd probably seen 2, maybe 3 opportunities come through and that weren't necessarily right.
Yep.
But I only got interested in the role at the Chamber because somebody actually mentioned it to me. So I wasn't actually looking. And so without that little piece of, connection there, I probably wouldn't be here speaking with you on what will be one of the most successful podcasts of all time.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you for taking that plug. We were actually thinking the same thing. So we're going to retire soon, aren't we?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, going to get our big boat.
We'll definitely be getting him back, though.
Yeah, we're definitely getting him back.
You're in.
Unless we ghost him. That might be another... that's awesome. So what made you want to come to the Chamber, though? Like, what appealed to you with the Chamber? Why did you jump ship and take on that amazing role?
So I'm terrible. I've got a really strong service element to my personality, and it's probably because I started my career in hospitality.
Yep.
So it's that helping others, being of service to others, et cetera, et cetera. Yep. And so I've carried that through my entire career. But what really struck me about the opportunity at the Chamber is really the purpose of what the organisation does, and it is genuinely to help connect, grow, and support the entire business community to whatever extent that might be. Mm-hmm. And so having a look through some of the opportunities that are firstly in Geelong, but also some of the gap areas that have probably emerged in recent times as well, particularly the last year or two, I just found a real opportunity to say, well, there's things that aren't being done and the Chamber could be the vehicle to do that. Mm-hmm. And I'd really love to have that chance to be able to step in and help deliver.
Absolutely.
And so a few of those little things really aligned. I've had some of that CEO experience before and really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. But I'm quite a people person. And so having worked from home, full-time for the last 3 years, but even prior to that, I did a huge amount of work from home before the pandemic even existed. Yeah. The opportunity to step out and work with people face-to-face in the office, mm-hmm. And in the environment in the Geelong community is just something that really sat really well. It's really enjoyable, so getting out and about all the time. So there were probably just too many opportunities at the time to pass by, and we've already started to get stuck into a few, which is exciting.
Yeah, definitely. How are you going to balance, though, all the events and after fives and the busyness with lifestyle and family? Like, is that going to be... Because that sometimes is the biggest challenge. It all sounds great and exciting, but then you've actually got to fit that around family and those kind of commitments as well.
Yeah, so I've got to fit it around a wife and 3 kids.
Yeah. How old are the kids?
They're 11, 7 and almost 1. She's 11 months, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, we've both got 3 kids of our own too. So there
you go.
I feel like I'm through the trenches a bit more though.
Yeah. Well, what am I? 7, 10 and 12.
Yeah, one's tough.
Yeah, one's
tough. So you went youngest to oldest, I went oldest to youngest.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think I like telling people I've got an 11-month-old. That's the reason I look tired.
Yeah, and it makes people go, oh God, we've got to give him a
11-month-old.
Yeah,
and how old's the other one? 10?
No, 7 and 11.
7 and 11.
Yeah.
And a 11-month-old.
Yeah. Yep.
So you've been breeding for a long time.
You really went back there, didn't you? You were through the nappies, you were through the nappy bag, and you really went back there.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Long enough to forget. That's right.
Yeah.
No, see, ours were so close. We're already, I was already in the mess. It was just keep going. They're already shambles, but you were through it.
Nah, but you know what you've done really well? You can now get the 11-year-old to carry around the 1-year-old. Very clever. I like that strategy.
We probably play the big brother, big sister card too many times.
Yeah, no, I do that all the time.
If there is so many times, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is it brother or daughter, daughter or son, the first one?
Oh, so we've got Edward's the eldest, then Georgiana in the middle, and then Magnolia, who's the youngest.
What a pretty name.
What do you
call her, Mags?
Yeah.
Mags.
Maggie.
Yeah, they've all got several names, but all the pet names, yeah.
I don't even forget. Half the time we got like dogs and stuff, and I just yell a name, and I go, do you always
Someone will come.
Do you always get your kids' names wrong? And my kids always say to me, you named me, Mum. Like, how can you forget my name? And I'm like, oh, you're
whichever one you are.
I'm like, just whatever your name is, just stop doing that.
Yeah.
Like, I just yell constantly, really. I just walk home and yell when I get in the front door, and that's about it. No one listens. They just kind of turn a blind eye. Right. So, okay, so because you have quite a busy family and your wife probably works maybe also, what's the key? How do you balance that? How do you?
So I feel bad because I've got two different ways of answering this. Number one is I just spent the last 18 months on a very busy interstate travel schedule. So I'm actually coming down to an awesome lifestyle.
Okay.
I was away a lot.
Okay.
Spent a lot of time.
In your previous role?
In your previous role.
At Medibank.
Yeah. So that I'm probably coming down to a different level, but there are a lot of after hours events with this role. There's a lot of before hours events too. There's a 7:30 breakfast I had to get to this morning.
Yeah.
But it's one of the key things now, and just starting to settle into, sort of week 4, heading into week 5, is being comfortable to say no or provide that opportunity to some other people. So that's really important.
Yeah.
So we'll often have invitations to things that the chamber can represent, and some of the team will be able to benefit from that more so than me just saying yes to everyone.
Yeah, that's true.
And then also putting some boundaries on it. A lot of our events are deliberately finished up at 7:30, so that they don't sort of carry on to 8:30 or no finishing time. Yeah. So
the kids are in bed by then, aren't they? So it's actually easy for you. So you've worked it out that 7:30 is a good time. So when you get home, you can relax.
Feel like you want me to say yes, but it's definitely a no. Definitely a no. Yeah. So I think just also being and creating an environment in our organisation too, where it's okay that you don't have to say yes to everything.
Yeah, okay.
And that's really important. So I've got to lead that from the front, but also make sure that the team's comfortable to say, I've been invited to this and I think I'm going to say no. And that's totally fine.
Yeah. And that's like a leadership style, which is something else we're going to talk about, won't we, Suze? About that leadership in the Geelong community, I think is really important. We've got some amazing leaders and awesome businesses in the community. But, how do you become and how will you become an amazing leader at the chamber? Like, what is your leadership style and what do you hope to achieve from a cultural kind of point of view that other companies maybe can leverage off and take on to their organisations?
I feel like you just asked me 7 different questions.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, there was a few in there.
I'd like them all answered separately, please.
Sure.
Start with number 1.
Number 1. So I think from my perspective, the biggest value that I've got is just that honesty and authenticity.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to be a leader that I'm not. That's not to say I've got plenty of things I need to work on, and plenty of things that I'd strive towards and improvements, etc. But I'm not overtly trying to be, and model myself on someone that's not me. And I think that's really important because I can also be honest about the things that I'm not very good at, and maybe some of the ways that I can sometimes come across that doesn't quite work with people. Yeah. So probably a good example is when I go into some sort of deep thinking or maybe there's a bit of a crisis moment, I'll often just sort of withdraw and just need a bit of time to work through things. But if you're trying to get my attention, it comes across as I'm just being a bit dismissive. Yeah. And so working with the team just to identify that there's certain, traits and behaviours and attitudes and how they present and what it actually means is really important. Yeah. Rather than, say, pretending to always be available when what I really need to do is just go and have a bit of space and time and thinking. Yeah. So we're only early days with sort of forming this new team, and we've got some team members that have only been in the chamber for 6-7 months, etc. So they're still going through a bit of a journey as well. But we'll really bring the team together and knit them together using a few different tools and techniques to be able to understand each other. Yep. And it's also, there are probably some legacy and some sort of bias traits that people might think in the past have been negative, but they're actually really valued. Things like pessimism, for example, can be fantastic. Really challenging whether something needs to be done, why does it have to be done, flagging the risks. That's actually a really important role to play in some scenarios. So
absolutely. Don't just do it because you've been doing it before.
But also don't try and change the, potentially negative view or risk adverse view of someone just so that everyone's happy and always positive, because that can have its own consequences. So that strength building is really important as a leader. So I guess maybe part 2 of your 7-part question.
So it's number 2. We haven't got that long actually though, so you might just speed along.
I'll speed along. Maybe how do we sort of focus on that? And for me, it's a real 360 degree, and it's probably a 360 and 3D model of what's happening. So I want to understand and get feedback from team members, external parties, our partners, our members, friends, family. It's really just continue to collect what it is that what am I doing, how are things going, is it working, is it not, and just get all of those different views constantly, because I think it's important to understand, how you're perceived and what kind of leader you want to be, and also be shaped by the people who might actually need you to work with them or to partner with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Because you were in recruitment at Medibank, weren't you?
Yeah, and also in several recruitment firms before that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So were you head of at Medibank, head of recruitment?
Yeah, and it's an interesting career path because I looked after predominantly I shouldn't say Medibank's healthcare division, firstly.
Yep.
So Medibank is about 50% healthcare delivery and 50% health insurance and, shared services and things. Yep. But I was really fortunate to have some great people to invest in some different skill sets and programs to get me to focus on a few key strengths. So, for example, a few of those process management. So, I did a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt, which is really being able to break down process and process improvement and rebuild things more efficiently and effectively, which is a great skill set to have. And then Agile Project Management was another one. So as we sort of added those things on, I was able to take on project-based roles and played a really key role during the COVID crisis management and how we supported some huge organisations to get through that. So I did go into recruitment there, but I also was able to upskill during that time and really add some different strings to the bow.
So from your experience, I guess, it's one thing to be on our side where we are the recruiters. Flipping back to your experience of going through that process with Chamber, I mean, not naming any names and who did the process, how did you find it? Like, do you feel it's different? I mean, you said a lot of the time you've been headhunted almost. Going through that process from, right, I'm putting my name forward and then jumping through all those hoops. I mean, I know at the moment I'm recruiting for a really senior role and we're making them jump through so many hoops. So I guess for you, what was your experience like and what's the biggest take for recruiters from the other side of the fence?
Yeah. So one of the great things reflecting on that process is just having a balance. So I think it's okay to sometimes put candidates through hoops if you let the candidate put the employers through the hoops as well.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So where it gets out of whack is where you have that uneven balance between constantly, drilling or assessing or having criteria, but not allowing that spotlight to go back.
Yeah.
And that was one of the lovely threads of the experiences that meeting with the board members in the first instance and then having the continuity of meeting with some of the same board members again, we could pick up those different threads of conversation. And there was a lot of opportunity not only for me to demonstrate that capability and experience, but to also ask questions about what support they would be providing in things like strategic direction and so forth, so that you can make an assessment as to whether things are right for you just as they are, whether you're right for them. So I think it depends on, there's obviously different experiences for different organisations, but I feel like if you can keep that balance and control, then it really does tend to match and have more of an even playing field.
Yeah, because by the time you get down to that shortlisting process with senior roles, it's such a two-way street, isn't it? I mean, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. It has to be that right fit.
Absolutely. You want to know where's the business going, where's the direction, how financially sound is it? I think that's been a big question we've had for more senior roles is, am I leaving Medibank is a pretty secure big organisation and you're leaving such a big company to join quite a small business. So that can be a risk sometimes to some people in analysis in its own. So the stability of an organisation. So we get a lot of questions past COVID, what's the stability of the organisation? What's the turnover? What have they done since COVID? What does their future look like? Because I don't want to jump ship in a role that I've got security in to then move and then 2 years later the business, So that's something we seem to come up with against quite a bit, don't we? That
And providing that info is really important. So I found that in the process with the Chamber, there wasn't really any topic out of bounds. So, if having that information, and the Chamber publishes an annual report, so there's financial information available and that sort of thing. Yeah. But if I was going into an organisation that perhaps, had some closed books, being able to open that up and just having that discussion is really important because you're going to open yourself up as a candidate. Yeah. Show all of those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, all those sorts of things. What do you like at the best of times, the worst of times? And I think that should be reflected in the other side, which is what does the organisation look like at the worst time of the year?
Yeah.
Or what do things look like when things are going really well? And just being really, really honest about that situation where if you can open that up as an organisation and share that, what you're going to see is somebody who leads into that and says, well, I know how to deal with that or lead that or fix that, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. That's why how you
Absolutely.
manage across the business too, isn't it? About just being open and transparent. I'm assuming that's probably quite important. I feel like I get quite involved with the Chamber doing the business awards actually, which is starting up soon. So that's a fantastic area of growth for the Chamber. But I think I noticed from working with the Chamber and the board that it is transparent. You do open up. You do involve everyone. Everyone's a part of a team and feels included. So I think that's really important in creating culture to actually make sure you don't want to overshare, but also make sure people feel like they're on a part. They're on the journey with you and they're a part of it and they have an opinion and their voice is heard. So I think that's something that's essential for businesses.
And let's not forget, most organisations or businesses or leaders are going to find some real comfort knowing that if they're going through some troubled times, there's other people in those like-minded communities that are going through troubled times too.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than hearing how amazingly successful people are and you go home and think, why is my business not working?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or even as an employee, why is my job not going well, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So being able to facilitate those conversations is really important. And we'll play a role moving forward to be able to facilitate a lot more of those workshops, discussions, tribes, communities, et cetera.
You already do a lot of them. You've got a lot of I've noticed you've got a lot of podcasts out and things like that around different things that are usually on topic at the time. And, most of them are obviously free to the members of the Chamber, which is fantastic. And they're our podcast, you jump on and, I've learnt lots of things from different things.
One of the great things we had, sorry to jump in, recently is we have these things called member mingles. So particularly new members, we set them up. It's just a really casual way to meet the Chamber team. We only had 3 attendees.
Oh.
But it was the fastest 30 minutes of discussion. We were all just wishing it went for longer because we had 3 people who could all ask whatever questions they want. Someone who'd moved in and started a business, someone who's an employee but wants to establish some networks, who's recent to Geelong and probably wants to work for another business. So that was just a fantastic opportunity for, 5 people, but 3 members, 2 from the Chamber, and just they were going through some challenges and we're like, well, what are they? Let's just work through them,
Yeah, it's wonderful.
So that was great.
Which is a really good segue into the question I was going to ask you. You've been here for 7 years, but you've predominantly worked for Melbourne, a Melbourne-based company. Are you loving being out there in the local community now? I mean, you must be learning even more. I find with Geelong, I've only been here for 2 years. Every time I turn a corner, I'm learning something new about the region. So I can't even imagine what it's like now for you, who probably spent so much time in front of a computer talking to people in Melbourne, to now get out here. I mean, are you just discovering so much more to Geelong?
Yeah, definitely. And there's different circles, right? We've been part of the school community and there's some amazing families there, and then you've got different sporting clubs and communities. So that was a difference from the start.
Yeah.
Knowing neighbours' names.
Yeah.
I think I can remember one neighbour's name for all of the years that I've lived in other places. But seeing the business community is another side to it, which I hadn't involved myself too much in previously. So the answer is yes, and it's hard not to when you sort of walk through, Geelong West and the waterfront, and then get to your office, and by the time you get upstairs, you can overlook the waterfront, and there's some amazing, beautiful days outside as well. But it'll be fantastic to see if we can get some more growth, particularly in the CBD.
But you also got a lot of rentals that are vacant along Murrabba Street, which says a lot too, and it's just becoming graffiti and a mess and not inviting really.
So one of the most pleasing things, and we'll figure out a way to bring this out into the open more so people can be aware, is just the amount of investment that's going in, particularly around infrastructure. And there's a handful of hotels that have already opened. There's another couple that are already started and some planning underway. And so when you start to build those different pieces of infrastructure, people will come and use it.
Yeah,
and so there are some really exciting major investments. And then you've got residential going into different areas and pockets as well. So I think it's important to have that central hub in the CBD, but also to provide that access for, the Surf Coast and the Armstrong Creeks and everywhere else to be able to come in easily, whether that's through different transport modes and so forth. But there's a really it's a good sense of anticipation and excitement that things are just going to go pretty gangbusters at some
Oh, yeah,
point.
Geelong
We
very
Chamber-
soon.
hope so. 'Cause,
Beautiful.
well, I mean, what about the Com Games? You know, no one's going to want to go and watch the gymnastics if they can only shop at Market Square.
Probably. But how do you reckon businesses? I think you seem to spend a lot of time on your small to medium businesses. Since COVID, has there been a massive drop off of them? Has that been like closing of them? Like, has it been quite a sad story, or do you see a lot coming now? And
what we're seeing at the moment is quite a lot of new members coming in.
okay,
So it's really interesting. So the chamber is 170 years old this year, which is quite incredible. And if you ever think about what that history has gone through, you know, recessions, droughts, floods, economic pressures, world events, all sorts of things, it's pretty crazy.
yeah,
But it's just, the chamber is one of those interesting organisations where when things are going really well, businesses want to use that to showcase and leverage and how do I grow faster and network and so on and so forth.
yeah,
In the current environment where things can be a little bit tough for some sectors, the chamber has a different role, which is it can be an alternative to drive business or to find new clients or to seek assistance where you may not have the resources. So it's not necessarily resilient in terms of all the different pressures, but it has different roles to play at different times. And so in the last few months in particular, we're seeing a lot of new members coming through in that really small and micro and also medium business category.
yeah, brilliant.
So we want to make sure that we've got the right service offerings and value proposition so that as they move forward and hopefully we can help them establish and grow, that they see some real value.
Absolutely. So I say, was it 2 years? Normally is it 2 years? Small business normally last around for, and then I think it's usually if they're going to last, usually there's a 2 year kind of cut off where it kind of takes that long and it finishes up. So having that support, a lot of the time at your support, we're actually out at the Federal Mills. We've got lots of startups in there, which is brilliant. We see them coming in all the time, see on the hubs, and but they all collaborate and work together and they help each other, and it's just fantastic that they've got that support, because when you're a small business, you don't have a marketing department, a HR department, an IT department. You kind of have to just do everything with what you've got. So that can be quite challenging. So
And it's also really good to see bigger brands, national and global brands, just even set up a small presence, because then they've got that touch with the community without having to take out, you know, a huge building and hundreds of staff and sort of muscle in.
Yeah.
They're integrating into the Federal Mills areas and some of the co-working spaces and that sort of thing. And that's really healthy for that business ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but no, the chamber's amazing. Obviously, you do your after fives, which I think is one of the biggest things that most businesses I talk to, it's the biggest networking in Geelong by far. Like, I don't know any other events. Like, you get 300 plus generally, wouldn't you, on every month?
Yeah, we do. So they pretty much sell out. All the registrations sell out really quickly. Sometimes in less than a day, which is really exciting.
Yep.
But we're going to make a couple of changes to those. So for people who perhaps haven't experienced one for a while or haven't at all, or might be looking for something different, so we're looking for brands to really help activate those events.
Okay.
So a little bit of a format change to a few of them, which will be great. But there is one coming up in May, so...
Yes, is it? It's a couple of weeks, isn't it? It's next week.
Next week.
Next Thursday.
it's next week.
Okay. Thursday.
So you'll see a bit of a change already. which
Yes,
is
I've
exciting.
actually.
That's exciting.
We've actually got Michael Stefano actually coming here next week. He's on the board, isn't
Awesome,
he? For
he
you?
is,
Yes,
yeah.
he's in here
Yeah.
next Thursday, and he's coming off hopefully the chamber with us after that event. So
Great.
yeah, we're bringing him here and to find some
Big guns.
really tough questions. Yeah, I know. What should we get him on? Hey, we're trying to find something really to catch him
Come
out.
up with some strategy.
Yeah, to catch him out. So, but yeah, I think obviously the chamber offers so much more than just the after fives, but I do find that's a great spot to start to. If you're starting a business, fantastic networking. You've kind of got so many different amazing people in that room, and you can walk around and meet them, and it's just a great chance, like to get in front of people and see people. And
Yeah, it's really good. And look, there's a really good foundation, calendar of events throughout the year. There's a couple of breakfast events, some lunches as well. And the chambers, there's an expectation that we, run those really, really well, and we'll continue to do so. So moving forward, it's having those social opportunities still, and they're really important. And I actually think there's probably a bigger role to play moving forward where people haven't necessarily had those opportunities to communicate.
yeah,
If you've recently graduated in the last few years and just started your career, you may never have actually worked in an office or an environment where you need to talk to people.
Yeah.
So that's a skill that should be developed, and
Yeah.
we've had a little bit of feedback from a few people to see if we can even help facilitate some of those social networking, face-to-face social networking skills. So that'll be a great opportunity for people to practice in a really comfortable environment and see a few things. But,
and intimidating too. I think sometimes you can walk
Absolutely.
into a room like the chamber. I find people seem to gravitate to people they know, and you can kind of walk in, especially if you come in on your own. It can be quite daunting walking up to someone to stand like, hi, and just try and get
Yeah.
included, like,
Yeah.
you know.
It can be.
It
So you'll
can
see the
be.
chamber team.
Yeah.
We often roam around and pick out people
Yes.
who may look like they want
They're
to have a
awkward,
good conversation.
uncomfortable.
Yes.
And so just say, is there anyone you want to have a chat with?
Yeah.
Or, you know, did you want to speak to someone who's also got their own business? And I've made plenty of referrals where you just pull one person into the circle, etc.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
great.
we should wear like a hat or something. People can come up to us and say, hey. Yeah.
Like what did they do at Kinder? You know, like at our school we have like a chair. So like if your friends run off on you at lunchtime and you got
Go
no
sit down.
Yes, it's a chair that you sit down on. It's the teacher's seat, and that means you're lost and got no one to hang out with. So you go sit on that chair, and then friends come find you.
Okay, that would be really awkward in an adult setting with alcohol.
Well, no, you could have that. If I was feeling like I was not being included, I could go sit on that chair.
We could sponsor it the SJ Personnel Lonely Chair.
We could. Maybe we should do that.
Maybe we should.
We might implement that.
Well, it sounds like you're doing amazing things for the region. So it's been so nice to have you.
I'm excited
on
to see what's going to happen
podcast.
now. You've promised us the
No.
world, so we are waiting to watch this space.
Well,
Yeah.
because I haven't delivered it, is that the podcast number 2?
Yes.
Definitely.
it is.
Surely.
Yes. So how
You're
long-
in.
I was trying to promise enough and not deliver enough that there's
Okay.
a reason to come back.
Yes, well, you've got us all sitting here waiting, so we want to see what you do. I want to see a change in the city of Great Geelong when I walk through that mall, and then I'll be happy.
Oh, that's awesome. And thank you for your support as well, because you're pretty active, a great advocate as well. And so we want to make sure that we continue working with partners that can, really showcase that and celebrate it as well. Because other businesses will learn from this and other interactions, and we want to try and make sure everyone's included. So thank you as well.
Absolutely. No dramas. Awesome.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks.
Thank you.